Hi, I'm Peter Lee Grove, and I've been into this living cheap for the last 20 something years. And it actually all started when I was part of the peak oil rage, which happened at the end of the last millennium. And they always said that we're running out of oil, but it would plateau with the price remaining with a band range for number of years. Like, I don't know, they said they couldn't predict it, but we'd know if we'd only know we'd gone over the peak after the fact. And I'd say the way the price of oil's been playing up lately, going up and down like a lost yo-yo, could mean we're over the peak, but it could also mean that government and corporations are just playing around with the price of oil because it's something they know we need, and it's causing incredible problems for the little people like us. You can't do much without filling up the car. And before the car would take about, I can remember, $30 to fill it up. Now it takes about over 100. It's a big increase over 20 years. But that's the way it's going. And that's only one aspect right now with the energy crisis is affecting everything. The price of petrol's going up, price of electricity is going up, price of nearly everything is going up because everything runs on oil. And that's causing serious problems with how to live reasonably well. But I've tried to live as cheaply as I possibly could, and I haven't been very successful at it because the prices have always kept increasing. We're getting fishy now. The power bill's been going up nearly every month. The water bills actually stay the same, which is unusual, but the rates, anything to do with the government's gone up, rates and taxes and God knows what else. Have they taken their cut? They're taking their cut as much as they can and bleeding us dry and wondering why we don't like them anymore. The few things they do, like before we used to get some things with the government taxes for the city taxes. We used to get a fair chunk of stuff from the city, but now we get nothing. Absolutely nothing. I'd say we get nothing. You get the library, but that's actually going out of date now. And what's the other? The swimming pool, which we still have to pay for to get in. So really, there's not much that we don't have to pay for now. Plus the taxes for everything else lumbered on top, and the government's siphoning off everything. And jobs going downhill. Actually, I'm earning less now than I was 20 years ago. And the cost of everything's just gone ballistically high, so I don't really know what to do about that. But back to living cheap. Well, it's a mindset, which I've been trying to perfect, but it does get out of hand. And the problems with living cheap is you end up with a lot of cheap stuff. And if I see something cheap, I'll buy it because it's cheap. And that's not exactly the right way to go. So now I'm trying to unload the house or unload all the excess at the markets, trying to sell it off on eBay and all the auction sites, and go to the markets on the weekend and try and sell it off there. But there always seems to be a problem. There's a lot more cheap stuff around to buy, but actually there's not. The amount of cheap stuff available has actually decreased dramatically over the last 10 years. Before, there used to be garage sales on the weekend or rummage sales. You could go to probably 20 would be an average number to go to, probably up to 30 just before Christmas. Now there's about 4 or 5. And you've got to get them off the internet to find out where everything is. And a lot of people are selling stuff on the internet, but there's the might sound good, but there's the added expense of getting it to you, the courier charges, and they're going up constantly. Every well, probably every couple of months you get a letter from your auction site saying the courier charges are increasing again, and you get little love letters from the courier company saying exactly the same thing. So that's the price of gas and the availability of cheap stuff. I thought there'd be a time where, as situations got more difficult and people had less disposable income because they put more of it in the gas tank, the prices should actually come down. But people are just hanging on to their stuff because they know they can't afford to buy it. And that is what I would call is what is actually controlling the mindset of the prices of second-hand goods. They should be coming down, but they're not, because people are hanging on to what they need. I think that might be one of the reasons why there's a lot less garage sales, because people realise if I sell the stuff, I won't be able to buy it back again because I can't afford to. The mindset's creeping in, and it's causing severe problems for people living off pensions and other government handouts if we got them, but the government handouts are getting less and less, and it's not a very good situation to be in at the moment. Sorry. That seems to sum up the situation that nothing is cheap anymore. Well, that's not. Even the cheap stuff that was cheap before is not cheap anymore. When you go around the opportunity shops and the church shops and whatever they got, nothing's cheap. There might be the standard rubbish. Clothes are cheap, that's one thing. No, they're not as cheap as they used to be. Shoes are. The prices have gone up generally across the board. Even the cheap stuff is not cheap anymore, and the prices are going up there too. Second-hand stuff's got a premium on it now because it's quality, because it's, what do they say, stood the test of time, lasted as long as it has, and it's still going, whereas some of the modern furniture and stuff like that, modern stuff just is garbage. Falls to bits before you get it. And because it's starting to fall to bits, a lot of the cheap stuff gets chucked out because no one wants to buy it anyway. The MDF made stuff that's not very good, flakes. And yet the good wood furniture still has a premium on it, even second hand, because people know you buy a second hand shelving set and it'll last a bit longer. Buy a bed that's been around for 20, 30, 40 years, you know it's going to last another 20, 30 or 40 years. Whereas some of this modern stuff just falls to bits. So there's a premium now on second-hand and reused stuff, and also the mindset set in because of economic situations where people don't want to sell what they have because it might cost more to actually buy it back again when they need it. And when people get extremely desperate, like they get kicked out of their house and they have to suddenly get rid of everything, they do. They spread it out amongst all their family and friends and use a garage out the back somewhere and load it away. They'd rather keep it than, if they can, they'd rather keep it than sell it, because they know they'll never get it again. So that mindset has crept in, and is still creeping in as people realise that things are not as easy as they used to be. It took a while, but that COVID thing kind of threw everything a spanner in the works on everything. I still refer to things as pre-COVID and after COVID now, because that was a big change with the lockdowns and the money situation and just learning to live with your neighbours when you had to lean over the fence and yell at them. Learn to live online, and even the online stuff now, if you're buying on the auction sites or the cheap sites, you can find it, but you have to actually look and wait, because things are not cheap anymore. It's incredible, really. I can't understand how people can still buy brand new stuff. I haven't bought anything new for years, or maybe a computer, because you've got to have a good computer. But normally I just buy second-hand stuff or used stuff if I can get it cheap enough. and then I'll buy or not buy. I'll get you buy anything cheap and try and resell it at the markets for a quick buck, double the price. You buy it one day, buy it one in the same week, buy it and try and sell it in the same week. But that backfires all the time because you end up with a house full of junk that no one wants because you can't always sell it. And driving down the markets all the time, especially with the price of gas now, it's not exactly the cheapest venture on the planet. But I've also, if I make a good day at the markets, I'll go and treat myself to a hamburger, McDonald's or something like that. But that's the only time I can afford to buy, though. I hardly ever go to the fast food places. I hardly ever go to a restaurant. I never buy, or I can't say I never buy coffee out, but I hardly ever buy coffee out. I've got my own stovetop percolator, and even the pods, the coffee pods, we pick those up cheap because no one wants them at the food banks and that, and I just stick them in the percolator and boil it away, and that's strong coffee, that. But you have to change things, like if you're spending all your money on coffee, then you might as well buy a percolator and make your own. It is cheaper. And now, because coffee's gone up in price, or shot up in price, but that was weather related, still hasn't come back down. I'm putting less coffee in the actual percolator. Instead of putting in 2 spoons, I put in 1.5, and that's going to go back to 1 as soon as the old body gets used to having less caffeine flowing through the cells, flowing through the blood vessels. And that's how I'm slowly adapting to try and stay ahead of everything. But every time you actually save money, there's actually the government, the rates and the taxes, they're just taking it all away. It's the government is the biggest, I hate to say it, but they're the biggest expense nowadays is the government. It's not food, it's not gas, it's just the government. Even the taxes on gas are incredible, the taxes on food. Even now, since COVID, they were saying some of the supermarket chains have made a killing. Well, I'm not surprised they made a killing. They put the price of everything up, and people have to buy it. And now the other thing is making a garden. I've started doing that years ago, and I never got that off the ground. It's just sometimes I grow something and sometimes it doesn't. I'm still working on that one. But the learning curve for growing a garden, I think it depends on how desperate you are. And I mustn't be all that desperate because the old garden's gone backwards. I've actually started a raised bed garden, but as far as I got started, I'm still putting cardboard on it now to try and stop the weeds. The weeds are a problem now. I don't know what happened there. Some places they just take off, they take over the garden. I put black polythene down for the winter, still down in parts of the garden just to try and keep the weeds under control, and it's a possible situation. But we're getting there. So really, trying to live cheap's multi-task, multifaceted, they call it. And it's not just one thing. You got to have the mentality, which I'm trying to get, and that's backfired because if I see something cheap, I buy it, and you don't use it. The old freezer, I've had to buy another freezer because the other freezer was full. And that's quite not exactly cheap, but I got one cheap on at the garage sale somewhere. It was actually didn't work, so we had to fix it up, pump it full, put some more Freon in it to keep it frozen. But it's silly things like that you can do. You can get something cheap, but you have to do something to it. But that backfires because I see some meat cheap, I chuck it in the freezer. And the freezer's still full of meat that I bought years ago, and I'm waiting to try and get to the bottom of the chest freezer. I'm not going to buy another chest freezer. I haven't seen the bottom of the chest freezer for God knows how long. The upright freezer's all right. I can reach in there and grab what I want. But that's also, everything seems to, I have to put controls on myself to stop buying, which I can't because I've been so programmed to buy anything on cheap. And if I see meat marked down, I'm not too fussy about and even yogurt and the stuff the supermarkets do mark it down before they throw it away. There must have been a big ban on it because they do mark it down. And now they've actually stopped marking it down so much. and it's price. It's not price. It's date controlled. I went through the checkouts with some really marked down stuff, and it wouldn't go through the checkouts because it was out of date. So they just threw it away. Wouldn't let me buy it. But they have to have their so many libel suits against them for selling out of date food or over date food or something that they are so careful nowadays. Even the out of date food won't even go through the checkout. And yet it's quite strange. They can put the same thing through twice and charge you double if they can get away with it. So you got to, when you're at the checkout, I'm over vigilant, or whatever they call it. I keep watching the prices, and they know too. I'll stand there and watch the prices. I'm putting it through, so they know they can't really get away with it. And I had a big argument with one checkout operator because she put some. I don't know how she did it, but she put it through twice. Must have been quick. And I said, no, that's wrong. And then we ended up getting someone in of us. And I said, look, I've added it up in my head. And she said, you can't do that. Well, I could. But in the end, we sorted it out. We had to get an Indian guy, and I said, he can add it up because he didn't go to school here. And he added it up and said, yeah, it's wrong. And I knew straight away which one it was. I even knew which one you put through twice because the difference was the same price as another one. But they're quick. They're quick. And another time I went through, and I went out the door, but I turned around and come back and said, this is wrong. And she knew exactly what she did. She knew it because the checkout operator just didn't even look at it. She just re-put the new price through and gave me the difference. So you have to be, it's just a whole mentality now. It's incredible. Before we used to think the supermarkets would be nice to us, but now these what do they call them? Companies that just seem to think they can do what they like, and they do. Because no one checks. Well, now they have to be careful because not everyone, but most people are getting weary to the fact that they say the price isn't when you take it to the checkout, it's not. And when you got the self-checkouts now, you can actually keep an eye on what it is. They get very upset with us when you pick up something. It's the attitude to people is just we're nothing now. So that's how it's just buying stuff, everyday stuff that you need. And even now, like before, I used to buy brand stuff. I'd follow brands, a real brand conscious person. Now I'm not. I just buy the cheapest. But even the store brands and the really cheap brands, some of them are rubbish. I know there's some brands I will not buy because the quality is just garbage, and it's just rubbish. So even the cheap brands, you got to be careful which one you buy because some cheap brands are just that rubbish. But I'm always on the lookout for markdown stuff. I have a loyalty card, but that doesn't work out too much. I don't know how they keep saying you're going to save money up, but so far I haven't got any bonuses or anything, so I don't know what's going on there. But you got to look for it. You got to check the specials, and there are marked even vegetables now. They've started marking down vegetables. So they've thrown them out, I think, and that's a good little number to get on because they mark them down a fair chunk. But even at the markets, the vegetables at the markets, you can pick up deals, but you have to be very not price conscious, but you have to know the prices of everything. And it's a constant battle updating prices, even supermarket prices, just to know what is actually cheap and not just say it's cheap. And I'm getting better at that one, but I've got to check the prices. And even I know at the markets there are some things a lot cheaper than the supermarkets, but you have to know, you have to go shopping in the supermarkets first to check out all the prices, to know the prices. And there are, even between supermarkets. There was one thing in the supermarket started selling from chemist stuff, drugstore stuff, and it was half the price it was actually half the price in the drugstore. No, it was half the price in the supermarket than the drugstore. And then this drugstore warehouse came into the market, and they just dropped the price on everything. And I don't know how many drugstores didn't like that big drugstore, but I used to shop there all the time because they were cheap. I don't know how they could be so cheap. And the other thing is online. That's where you can get bargains as long as you, well, the online companies know they'll give you a fixed amount you have to buy and then they give you free shipping. Well, that fixed amount has gone up. I knew it used to be $60, $60. Now it's up to $80. That's in one of the cheaper places I buy stuff at. That's if you got to pay, I got to buy $80 worth of stuff before I get free shipping. Well, I'm quite good at buying $80 worth of stuff because I know what I need, and I know and then when they bring out sometimes they have a quarter off, 25% off weekend, but you can only do you can only do it one time. So you got to buy everything together. So you can't buy one lot today and another lot tomorrow, and that's how I got hooked up on that. So I had to use me daughter's account to buy some more. But that was cheap, 25% off the whole shop for just one weekend. I don't know why, probably their anniversary or something. But that's when you get that's where I will look for if there are shops that are doing something like that, and I know the prices, so I'll buy them. That's what I do. Splash out. Well, I'll splash out to buy for the future because I know that the prices are going up. And buy now for the future where you can, because if you got to buy it in the future, you got to buy the inflated price, the inflation price, which will put everything up. And that's one. There was one book I read, Alpha Strategy, I think by some guy called Pugsby or something. He wrote it years ago. And a lot of the products he was talking about, and still around, but his theory was buy now at the cheaper price for use in the future. And I was doing that for many years. I followed that principle. Even before COVID, when they had the big, what do they have them? They had the hoarding in COVID. They said hoarding was against everything. Well, it's not very against your friendly neighbour because you're buying what he couldn't get. But I wasn't exactly hoarding. I was just buying for the future, for future use, and that actually is paying off now. I didn't because before COVID everything was pretty stable, no serious malfunctions, and then along came COVID and threw the whole world into total disarray, and then the supermarket started jacking prices up, and price of gas was going up, and everything was going silly. And I was buying before that. I was buying stuff, even toilet paper. We had the big toilet paper rush during COVID. I couldn't understand that. You couldn't buy a toilet roll anywhere. And now, even now, it's pretty difficult to buy. Well, it's not as cheap as it was then. Toilet paper's gone up, incredible price. I couldn't believe the prices it's gone up. And that, the 2% or 6% inflation or whatever they say, 15% inflation. The price of toilet paper is more expensive than that. So it does pay that Pugsy. If you can get a copy of that Pugsy book, I'm sure it's called the Alpha Strategy or something. It's Alpha something or other, Alpha Strategies, I think. And that's a good book. Just follow his principle, even though he goes into lots of prices and that sort of stuff about what they go up. But they are right. He is right. And it has. I look at it now. The stuff I've got in the shop, I've got in the house now. The only trouble with that, you've got to rotate the products. That's for storage. And we had a couple of tins explode, or one tin exploded, it didn't explode, it leaked. And of course, when it leaked, that destroyed the tins around it. So I lost 5 or 6 tins, I know I lost 1 or 2 straight away. The others I could salvage, but they wouldn't have lasted much longer. So you got to keep checking on your stuff. And I'm getting better at storage now. I made a big mistake storing. You can't store anything in plastic bottles or plastic bags, because where I am there's a bit of a rat problem. I've got it under control. Well, I thought I had it under control. I've got to put the rat poison down all the time now, but they destroyed anything that was in plastic was destroyed, and it went all over the tins, and it ruined the tins. And anything in plastic bags, there were plastic bottles that rats just went straight through them. Plastic bags, forget it. They just, one bite and it's gone. Had some rice in plastic bags and they managed to destroy the whole bloody lot. So the rodent, it doesn't matter what you do, rodents are terrible, rats are shocking. We had one in the house, even with a cat. I don't know how the rat got in there. Oh, he come up the pipes because he come in through the laundry. We couldn't get him out of the house. Even the cat was sitting. The cat was useless. He was so used to being fed. The only time he got near the rat was when the rat was eating his bloody food. He didn't like that. But once we got that rat, did a lot of damage. There was only one rat in the house. We couldn't get rid of it. Even the cat was useless. I was thinking of getting the neighbour's cat because that's a ratty cat. And it did a lot of damage. But it just showed me that I had to be more careful, and then I had to invest in a lot of those plastic storage bins. I don't know if the rats can get into those. Even the storage buckets. I've got storage buckets. They say they're food grade buckets, and I hope the rats can't get into those things. The tins, that's the biggest problem, is the tins. You got to be careful because some, so it's actually tomato must be quite acid because we had a lot of tomato sauce and tomatoes, tinned tomatoes are the ones that seem to explode. Tomato soup was one that kind of nearly exploded, and you get all this black stuff running out of a can. Oh, yuck. Goes all over the shelves and all over the other tins. But so you have to keep track of your food, and you have to keep it away from rodents, and that's even in the house. We got the cat in the house, and that's supposed to keep the smell of the cat's supposed to keep the rats out, but maybe our cat don't smell too good. And that rat got in, but he couldn't. Oh, shocking thing. That was an eye-opener to how much damage one rodent can do, was that eye-opener there, the rat. But we got rid of that one, and now I'm very cautious with the rats. Very cautious. And I put poison down, rat poison. I got to, because it's they know that there's food there, because for some reason the rats are not the dumbest animal on the planet. And you got to actually kill the rat to make sure he doesn't bring his mates around. But the rat, I don't know about the rat poison. I'll put it down, but it does keep the rats out. You got to keep the poison, put the poison down until they don't eat it, and then you put it back in the bottle, in the jar. And then when you see the rats have been coming back, you put the poison back down again. I've blocked up a few holes. You got to block up the holes. Man, those rats are terrible. And then get going forward, it's going to get worse if there's a rat plague or mouse plague or something. That'll cause incredible damage. So so if you buy cheap stuff, you got to actually storage and have it so it's safe and well hidden, but away from the rats and the rodents. But that Pugsy, Alpha Strategy Pugsy, that's actually a good book to read if you can get a copy. It's old. There is somewhere on the website. I'll see if I can find it. But they do dish out a electronic version of the book for free somewhere. That's how I got mine. I don't know if they still do it, because nowadays the internet changes so fast. If you don't keep, like my problems, my computer, if it craps out and I lose a drive, I lose that time period of what I put on the drive. And that included a lot of bookmarks and a lot of stuff that I saved. But that's what I've been doing now, just to keep a track, just to keep ahead of the game. But it's a mindset. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Have a good night. I'll be back later.